Okay, back inward to part 3. Dive into your particular folder. These two files right now are identical. They're both pretty much just exactly where we left off from the last tutorial. So if you want to pick up exactly where I was at, you can use this one, or you can keep going with your own file. I'm going to open up this one. And let me just point out a couple very slight things that I did that I changed from the one before. Let me actually just kind of take that off. I put a little bit of just a pause right here. You can see like he kind of does this final flip and then kind of reacts to the fact that he's going to be falling down. I thought that was a nice little touch. It's just a couple frames pause. Obviously, it seems kind of unnatural that he'd pause like that falling down, but you know, it's just one of these things that played through nicely when I published. And then this is kind of obvious. I just put in a few more kind of blurs like this as he flips around. Let's see, there's one right here, and where else? I guess just with that sword. And then, of course, this little twinkle shows up. And these are just all on this extra layer up that way. And let's see. Yeah, and then a little twinkle right on that pause there. I thought that was another cool little thing. And one last little trick. What did I do? I deleted out a couple of the frames the first time he flips through. So he kind of flips faster in the beginning and then slows down a bit and then has that little pause, and so he descends back down. So that is pretty much it. I'm going to fold up this layer, and what we'll do is create one more layer up this way. In fact, let me just bring it down right here. We'll call this Ninja Moves, and what he'll be doing is just kind of bouncing around, kicking, and we'll figure it out as we kind of progress through this. But let's have him descend back into this first background. Okay, so I'm just gonna copy this. You know, now that I'm looking at it, this is actually a JPEG. Let's go ahead and put it into a movie clip. So we'll just call this ground background. I'm gonna copy that and let's get over to here. I'm just gonna put a blank keyframe right there and then just paste it back in place. So just as soon as he falls off, it just switches back over to here. Okay, let me mute that off for a little bit. And what else can we do to set this guy up? Well, let's kind of try to ground things back where we began. So what I'm going to do is unlock this layer and just select him. I'm just going to copy him. Probably lock that back up. And let's put a blank keyframe right here. We'll paste. Oops, got to unlock that. We'll paste him in place. And that'll give us just kind of a reference point for changing him from here onwards. I was noticing when I was working through here, there was a couple places where I kind of made the head a bit too big, or maybe not too big, but he does kind of come forward here, so we don't want to necessarily work off of one of those things. Let's get him back to his original size. He does seem a little smaller there. And what else? Oh, you know what? By the way, good news. This tutorial will be about out of date as soon as I upload it, because I just noticed that there is a new version of Flash coming out, and one of the things they are boasting in this new version is that they have solved that little QuickTime problem. You can now export out to QuickTime with nested movie clips, so all that stuff I was bringing up earlier is kind of a moot point for those of you that do have the latest and greatest version. So that is Flash CS3. But if you're still using Flash 8, well, you still got that problem. So it's such a big deal. Okay, let's insert in a few more frames here for us to work with. And yeah, like I was saying, we'll get him back down to this point. Actually, you know what? Let's put a couple frames here. We'll just do Ninja reference size. How about that? And maybe I'll drag that up here and just kind of tuck him off to the side so we don't forget how he looks. And let's do this. Since we will have him fall back down, let's cheat that a little bit, and we'll go grab one of our frames from when he was jumping up. How about, maybe this one right here. So we'll just copy that guy. So we'll use this to get him falling back down again. So I'm just going to paste that in place. We will take a look at the background for a little bit here. Just put him right over there. Let's also take this shadow off of there, and we will create another layer. Call this one shadow. Paste that. Oh, let's see, right there. Actually, one kind of fun thing we can do. Let's move this out of the way and move this out of the way for right now. So we're just kind of focused on this shadow. I'm going to insert a few frames here. What we can do is open this scene with this shadow just kind of motion tweening bigger. All right, so I'm going to put a motion tween here and just take this down to maybe 10%. Right there. And then so it'll just kind of grow like that, and then we can get him kind of just coming down real fast. And in fact, you know what, let's go and grab one of our blurs from before. Let's see, one of these guys. It looks like I'll have to double click inside that. There we go. This ended up being a useful blur for us, didn't it? In fact, you know, let's go and start him. Ooh, maybe a little further up. Looks like I pasted this not onto the right layer. There we go. And then let's put a keyframe right here. Let me go ahead and just make the background kind of muted out again. I'll make it dark gray though. There we go. Just so we can see what's going on, and get him coming down here. Let's put his sword kind of in front of him. Something like that. And let's go and just take everything and scale it up a little bit. Do something like this. And keep in mind that these frames are all going to last, or these individual frames, I should say, are just one frame out of 15 per second. So if we do some weird kind of squash and stretch like that, people aren't going to really notice. Let me move that over there. And then on the next one, let's go and do this. We'll copy that frame over there, scale them down, make them, how about a little wider? You know what, I'd say we could even do that a bit more. Let's take this blur and just squish it down a bit. So just boom, like that. And now let's start to really change him. What we're going to do though is go back over to here and get, let's say, this frame right here. I think this is a good one to work off of. So let me just put a blank keyframe right there, paste him back on in. Oh, looks like I got his shadow too from before. Let's do this. Let's take this hand off of there. We will use one of the poses where he's actually holding his sword. So let's get that out of the library. Sword and hand. There it is. Okay, we'll pop that maybe like right up there. And the little body, let's copy this out for it looks like the 40th time. Let's take this leg, make it go up here, and this leg, let's go all the way out here with it. Make this kind of a nice dramatic pose. And that'll be kind of the key for this final part of this tutorial, is just kind of bouncing this guy back and forth between dynamic poses. Because I don't want to get into a situation where we have to spend an hour and a half kind of working on one flipping pose like we did last time. Now I thought that was good though, because it just gives you, it's a nice little practice and just, you know, different perspectives on one character. But you know, after a while it gets kind of boring. Let's take out this shape. Keep in mind, he is kind of doubled over on himself a little bit, so we want to make it seem like it's a bit more mass down here. Looks like his one arm got a bit too long. Let's see. Oh yeah, definitely did. Okay, let's correct that real quick. I guess that's kind of the problem with being this close to the canvas. Sometimes you don't see what others can. Okay, let's put that hand over there. Let's put this over here. Let's see how this works with the other frame there. Okay, that should probably be all right. Let's keyframe him, and let's just change this pose ever so slightly. So not much. We'll just do a little something on the arms so we can just kind of have this arm come up that way. That'll be a nice little kind of reaction to the fact that he's falling. His other arm goes up. This one, do something similar. Just kind of bring that up that way. But he'll still be kind of pointing his sword down there. And then for this, let's actually slide his leg out even more. Okay. And in fact, you know, let's try scaling his whole body down just a little bit. Bring this up. And that down. So that arm will go up. Let's duplicate this sword hand and just come into here and tilt, or I should say squash this like so. Just squash it, just scale that a little bit. That way, I don't know. Probably, hopefully, it'll seem a little less flat if we do that. And the one thing that we're kind of missing here is the head should be coming down some. Let's bring this forward and like that. Let's take this head tie and let's move it. And then let's take this one, do the same thing. I think this head could come down too, in fact. The one on the frame previous to where we're currently working. Let's do this. Let's go and scale this down a bit. And then let's scale this one up. I know this might seem kind of weird. Trust me on it. In fact, let's go ahead and make it even smaller down that way. So it should go something like that. And let's take this head and now move it really far down there. That'll pop up. Okay. Let's put a keyframe after this. Make this go up a little further. Alright. Bring this down. And this sort of ended up falling behind the eyes. Let's fix that. Bring that down like so. And then let's scale him just slightly out that way. Okay. Let's fix this too. There we go. And I think the only thing we should fix now would be probably the The head's a little off size. Let's see. There we go. It should be more like that. So let's, because remember we scaled him up here. So let's take his head back down. And let's put one more keyframe after this. This time, let's just bring the head down. Oh, we should have probably been moving this belt tie around a bit too. Let's bring that hand back a little bit. Okay, I think that's enough fiddling with it. In fact, well, you know what? Here, look at this frame. It goes down, head's down. Let's make it go back up. Then let's make it go down further again. And then it can come back up. And then one last little head bob down again. But I'm not going to do it on this frame. I'm actually just going to go back to this frame and go bring it up a little. I think that actually should look kind of good. It'd be just funny. There we go. Okay, let's do this. Let's test it out a little bit. I'll take the frame rate down. So, okay, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, now what we'll do is let's put a keyframe right here. Let's send his eyes just looking this direction. So that's an easy thing. We'll just duplicate the eyes. And afterwards, give a little bit of a pause. Let me keep moving our little reference over that way. Do a slight pause, and then let's have him jump up to this side of the stage. Okay. And this is going to be a real quick jump. But first what I'm going to do is just kind of scale them down, skew them out this way. Alright, so let's just do something like that. Let's do 2 frames of it. So just and then we will launch him over there. We'll have him do one kind of just spin around here, which is actually just going to be the one position, just 2 different rotations. Okay, a very simple frame actually, but let's go and do 1 frame right here, and we'll kind of cheat this by taking one of the frames that we've already made. In fact, let's use, we'll go grab one of these ones over here, probably just this one. So we'll unlock this layer, grab this, come back over here. Let's put a blank keyframe. Just going to rotate them like this. And let's go and take one of the heads that we've already made. How about this guy? That's a good one. Decapitate him. Recapitate him. Let's see, should we put this head behind? Yeah, I think that's probably good. And for the body, the bottom part here, remember these are separated from the rest. Let's just go and really quickly, of course, duplicate them, but we'll also change these legs. Just make them look more like they were on the ground there and then launching off. It's basically just kind of almost pointing down to where they were. Okay. And this could be kind of a stretched out pose like that. I think that would be okay. Let's stretch out that belt tie. Let's take that off. Actually, let's take it off and then maybe put it, oops, right there. This arm, actually this whole top body, let's just adjust this a little bit. Okay, so something like that. Next up, hit F7 over here, and let's take, what body should we start with here? Probably, oh, let's just get away with this one. We'll just copy this, paste it again. We're going to make some kind of dramatic changes to this. First, let's just take the whole head off. Put it over there for right now. And let's put this sword over here. Duplicate this body and duplicate the legs. In fact, you know, let's try to merge these two together. So let's put the body in the legs here. So I'm just going to cut that off. Double click inside of here, paste on in. I'm going to have to make that a little bit bigger, of course. And let's just break it apart. So it's just all blue once again. And what we'll do is make this whole shape kind of more circular. All right. So let me just actually cut off that part, and I'll just round it out here. Almost like if we wanted, what we could do is just take a circle and just use the stroke part of it, and let's just kind of work with this circular shape in mind here. Okay. I guess that's a little bit smaller of a circle. There we go. And I think one arm we're going to have to just, that front arm, the one that's closer to us, is going to have to come off because we're going to have to put the head in between there at some point. This leg right here, we're going to do something kind of crazy. Let's move it like that. Okay, and let's put another layer up this way. Just grab the line tool, and we're just going to put one stroke right there, just to show a little division between the two legs. Let's squeeze his waist in some. Okay. Alright, we'll come back out here. And well, let's reattach this part. In fact, I'd flip it this way, so it's more like that. And let's do something you'll see in kind of a lot of comic strips to show that some sort of movement is happening by just kind of tripling the shape a few times like that. Okay. So even though we only have one tie, we're just going to kind of depict that it's there multiple times. We'll put that fist over here kind of tentatively. And as for this head, let's just bring this over here. We will put it, let's see, probably we'll just tuck it right in there. You know what? I think we could kind of get away. This actually was, I was planning for this to be the arm behind him, but maybe what we could do is get away with it like that, because that looks a little bit better, in fact. What I was going to have to do would just be to duplicate this and then make an arm like so. And probably what I would have done to deal with that little line right there is take off the filters and then just do a stroke around it, like let's say, leave that one on, but then take off these other ones, and then come inside here with the ink bottle, just drop down like that, and so you'd still get that stroke around there. Maybe you could go and put one of them back on, but you would just want to make sure that the angle on it doesn't create any sort of line right there or division. You actually have to go and do this too. There we go. So you could do something like that too. But now that I have it, do I want to keep it? Let's go both ways with this. Let's see. Well, first let's adjust the head just slightly. Let's take these eyes and maybe either squeeze them together or just kind of get rid of one altogether. That kind of works. Oh, let's try this both ways. What I'm going to do is select all these and just kind of bring them forward like that. And where do we go with this? Let's go with that, and we'll just take this arm and put it behind him like so. Okay, now this sword hand. Let's put that back in place. Let's duplicate it though, and then let's double click inside of here. Let's duplicate this, the sword blade. Alright, double click inside of here. Get rid of the stroke around it, it's probably in there. And then let's just take the whole sword and do something like this. So we haven't perfectly made a circular shape with this guy, but we're getting kind of close to it. Looks like I lost one of his fists somewhere in here. Let me just see. Okay, it's right back there. I'm just going to move that arm around a little bit. You know, this is one of those cases where I think I might just be using it for the sake of using it. Well, that doesn't look so bad. Okay. And so I'll just do something like this. Let's do this though. Let's blur out the sword, or actually no, double click inside of here and let's blur that. And then let's take the body, so we'll just copy that, come over here and then just blur this whole thing. And let's also go over into here and just take the alpha down, so 50% probably works well. Okay, that's pretty nice, I think. We actually have moved the shadow a little bit. I mean, where it should be, I should say. So let's actually move it. So we'll just take that over there. Maybe, let's see, take it down a little bit in size, 90%. 90% again. Okay, and then let's bring this up just slightly. Let's take this a bit like that, just so we can bring him a little higher up. Alright, so I put a keyframe here, and let's now rotate him. I think what I'm going to do is do 3 rotations here. I was originally planning on 2, but part of that was because, at least in my sketch for this pose, the body didn't look this nice. So what we can do is maybe just leave this on here a little bit longer, because it does look pretty good. Let's move where this blur is a few times though. So maybe over here we'll put it at that point. And let's duplicate it. I'll put it in here twice. Okay. And then finally, let's just go and take this same pose, without the shadow though, and put it right over here. And let's get the shadow back to its original size. Copy that and then just delete that one off and just move it over this way. Maybe actually make it a bit longer. Okay, for this, when he comes down over here, it's not as violent as a come down as the other one where he just kind of, you know, falling down from space. So let's just have him slide into this position. One thing I want to do though is flip his head when he gets down. All right, and then let's also take the eyes and make them look back where they were. And that is it those eyes? Okay, yeah, something like that. Now when he gets here though, in his first frame, let's take his little bandana and we'll keep with that same trick that we were just doing before. So we'll do a few of them, all right? And then, let's see, the sword, let's duplicate this as well. So we'll get 2 of those temporarily. Then on the next frame, let's hit F6. Let's move them over about 8 pixels or so. Do the same thing for the shadow. Obviously, we'll take off this now. Let's take this one off, and we'll rotate this one. I'm going to scale out that just slightly. We do have that other pose that we've already created where this arm is down a bit. So let's go ahead and use that. It should be body 40. Although, let's also duplicate it so we can edit it. I just want to bring out this arm a bit more. And maybe actually take this arm up some. So get something like that going on. Hit F6 for all those frames. Let's move them over like 4 little nudges or pixels. Well, probably not pixels. It's a little bit more significant than that. How about taps of the directional arrow? Okay. Let's just rotate that slightly, the sword. Hit F6 again. This time tap the directional arrow twice. Slightly rotate this. In fact, you know what, since we are always rotating it around the hand there, let's move the pivot point to that little dot. It's probably centered up in there. Just move it right over to there. That means we can kind of pivot it around this point. Let me undo that because I lost track of where we were starting from. Okay, be sure you move this again. Hit F6, tap over once this time, move this down, do the same thing. Wow, we have gotten him a little bit bigger than he started. That's okay. We'll just assume that we've made him come forward in the camera. All right, where are we at? One more time over this way. Yeah. Move that down. In fact, let's move him over one more time. It's kind of a long slide, but that's okay. It'll look good. And then one final time, press him over. And this time, with the bandana tied, just move it back one. Okay, so it kind of falls in, and then it goes back. And when you play this through, let me just knock this down. I think this should look pretty good. Let's see. Okay, falls down, head bobs a bit. And he looks over that way, pulls back, flips around, and there we go. That's good. Alright, let me just make this layer invisible for a sec. And go ahead and save up the file if you haven't done that. Alright, let's give us a few more frames out this way to carry on. Look at that, we've only up to like second 10 here. It's amazing how slow things go. Alright, let's keep pushing our little reference guy over there. Guess we're not using him that much, but we'll leave him there. And let's do this. Let's get a pause for just a slight little beat here, and then we'll get this guy into another pose. This time a kind of simple one, not too different from this one. So just hit F6 over there, and let's begin. Let me zoom in a bit. What we'll do is bring his two arms together, all right, crossing in front of his body. And let's first do this. Let's take these eyes and use some of the smaller ones I know that we've already created. So I'm just going to swap out the symbol. And do we have, there we go, that's a good one. Right there. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll bring the head up to probably about this point, okay, and then let's duplicate his body. Let me zoom in just a tad bit more. Well, we're going to get rid of this whole arm. Oh, jeez. Cell phone. I don't know if you guys heard that or not. We'll continue. We're professionals here. We're just going to roll tape. All right, so let's kind of just get rid of that whole arm, and then for this arm right here, let's just almost collapse this down to the kind of almost bridge with that leg, and then we'll just bend this back like so. And I'm just going to round this out because probably the fist will go right about here. So this would kind of seem like, I don't think it's going to be visible, but kind of what we did before with the legs. You would see something like this going on if you were, maybe we can just leave that just to test it out. Let's get rid of this hand. And you know, I also want to take this knee and bring it up like so. So that'll come out just slightly. So he is going to reposition his legs a bit. Let's take this leg bottom and put it right over here, but we'll still kind of have this knee going down a bit. So it'll be something sort of like that. All right, and then yep, let's go ahead and just move this sword right over to here. Okay, so let's go ahead and make us another arm. We'll just duplicate this body and come in here and figure out what part stays. Let's just, well, let's just chop off this whole part, and we'll get rid of this and that. Okay, so some shapes are sort of like that. We'll deal with the fact that, well, actually those lines don't look too bad crossing over there. Let's see. Let's bring the head up, ooh, maybe a little further. So let me just move that out of the way for a second. Let's bring that over there. Let's bring this right over to here. You can see now what I mean about not being able to even see that part. Move that up some. Let's move this over here. We'll double click inside of here. Let me just grab one of these hands that we've already made and just duplicate it, flip it horizontally, and then put it right over there. It's a little ambiguous as to which arm is actually holding on where. It could very well be this is the hand for this arm, where it's just the hand's kind of just buckled down a bit like that, or he might still just be holding on to it over there, but it doesn't really matter too much. By the way, in case you forgot, this bandana on top does have a drop shadow with it. Let's just move the angle on it because it is kind of crossing into the outside of the head region. Okay, let's also take this tie and we'll just I'm just going to scale it down or up a bit, and then just we'll swing it back over this way as he makes this movement. So let me pull out a sec. There we go. So he's going to go from doing this, and then let's just take the square tool, just make it white, and just kind of do one of these deals. Just a nice big swoosh. And that, of course, will last for about one frame. Let's go ahead and keyframe right over here. We'll take this off. Let's go ahead and swap out this sword for the original one, the sword in hand. Because remember, too, that was kind of the thinner version of that. And then we can rotate that forward this way. And then let's also start to bring up the hand, the arm right there. So we'll take all these hands and bring them up along with the sword. And then let's start to lower his head down a bit too, so he's becoming a bit more intense. And then we'll also duplicate the body, and we'll just make some very subtle changes here. I think what I'll do is just get rid of this. So we'll move that up. And then let's move this up a bit. We can move that inward. Maybe move that. Let's keyframe him again. Let's move this up some. I think if we were to really zoom in here, you'd see kind of some slight problems with that belt. I guess they weren't that bad on that first frame, but they got a little worse over here, so maybe we can correct this. Let's just take that in some. Did actually forget to move this on this middle frame in this sequence. So let's go ahead and swing that back over here, and then let's fix up his belt one more time here. Something like that's going on. You know what we could do here too is probably scale his whole body up just slightly as he's doing this. So he's going from this crouch down pose, and then let's come here and maybe scale him up. See, I'm not sure how weird that'll look because we're also kind of moving his head down too. Yeah, now it's almost like you can't see that his head moved. So on this frame, let's bring his head up. Bring that up a little bit. Oops, I got a little hand there too. Let's move that down. So he's kind of getting into that pose of like a batter getting ready to hit the ball. Let's try rotating this. I'm going to move this pivot point too. On this fourth frame, let's just go and swing that back. Alright, let me pull out a bit here. We'll just thumb through this. Okay, so flips into that, comes up. Let's deselect that. Okay. Let's have on this pose him kind of come, the whole body come down a bit, so we'll just squash him down some. Up, up, and down a bit. And I think that's something we could exaggerate even more. I mean, maybe just take this up a bit more, that up a bit more. And then let's just do one more frame where we squish them back down. And if you do have multiple shapes selected and you want to adjust the pivot temporarily, it won't adjust it on any of the individual symbols, but it'll just adjust it for everything you do have selected. So we can just rotate that whole thing. And then let's move this slightly. Oh, I did have something weird kind of happen with this belt. See how it shifted like that? Let's just take this belt and go back a frame and just paste it on there. So we'll get rid of that, move that over there. Alright, that's enough for that wind up. Maybe one last little movement of the head upwards, and we're going to get this guy, there we go. We're going to get this guy running forward to the back over to the opposite side of the screen, and probably he'll slice downwards, maybe jump backwards or something like that. So let's hit F6 over this way. Let me remember to give myself a little bit more room out here. And we're going to do some, well, it's not going to be like a run cycle, but it'll just be a couple steps across there. Hopefully not take us too long. Let's do this. Let's put a keyframe for the shadow because we're going to move that across with this guy. Let's just go ahead and send him one pace over. And let's take this arm off. We'll take these two hands and let's flip them around. All right. Let's actually go ahead and put this arm back like so. What we'll do is as we run him across, we'll have his hands in this kind of upward position. And then as they get over this way, kind of slicing down like that. Alright, the body. Actually, let's worry about the head too, because we got to send this into a kind of a profile view, but to simplify things, let's just take the eyes off. We'll duplicate this bandana yet again. And let's just bring that down like so. And we'll have something just kind of like probably this simple. Maybe we'll do that little circle in the back like we did in one of his down positions. That little just tie back there, and then we can raise this up. As for this drop shadow, probably going to be best to angle it down that way. Maybe take the distance down some too. I don't mind that it hangs a little off of there. These are all fast poses anyway. And finally, let's move the pivot point of his head over there, and then we can just kind of skew it this way, and then there's a little bit more of a sharper angle heading down that direction. Alright. We'll move that up there for right now while we edit the body. Let's go ahead and move this off to the side. Copy the, or duplicate the body. And let's just do something like that. What I'm going to do is raise up this one foot kind of wildly out this way, so he's going to kind of sprint off. And actually, let me make this clear. That looks weird. But what we'll do is he's actually going to kind of switch sides here. So this leg will be the one that ends up coming forward, and we'll leave this leg right here. So I guess, let's see. We've already kind of moved him a little bit too far. Keep your eye on this spot. We'll move that back over there. Oops, I hit the microphone, sorry. So just keep your eye on that back leg. So that's the one that's going to stay down like so. And then this leg will go forward. I can't forget, I don't want to make these legs too long. I got to kind of ground myself. It's real easy to fall in that trap of things just keep getting bigger and bigger as you go through. And if we find out that at the end of this our starting poses were a bit off, there's always something we can do. We can always go back and change them slightly, maybe lengthen the legs. It's not generally the easiest thing in the world to do, especially if you've keyframed a lot of poses like this. And actually, I don't even want to say keyframe, I mean actually changed or duplicated them. But you never know, that type of thing happens quite often. Okay, so we're just going for something like this. Let's skew it out a little bit further. As for the belt, let's go with one of our straight belts. So we'll just head back up here to belt or belt copy. Your names might be different. It's okay. Alright, the head. Let's go ahead and send that backwards. Like so. These arms, they do need to be backwards as well. So we're just getting something like that. As for this shadow, oh, I don't know. Let's not forget about it, so maybe we'll just put it right there. I'm going to move this pivot point down that way and just make things a little bit bigger. Alright, next. Let's move him, probably about that much forward. These next few poses should go kind of quickly. Let's duplicate the body. And we're going to now send this leg down. And let's send this leg back. Like that. Let's just kind of flap this thing back and forth as we go progressing through this next little series. And the arms, let's get them going down. Now as we take this arm down, let's be sure we remember to bring the shoulders up slightly. Okay. And let's rotate the head as well, if we're going to rotate those shoulders. Let's see, okay. Next up, this leg is hitting the ground, so this one is going to move that direction, and this one will keep bending this way. So let's consider what we're going to do here. Well, let's move him forward a little bit more. So he's kind of bounding forward a bit more. Oh, you know what? I moved the wrong ones. Gotta move this one. So duplicate the body. Let's move all this over this way. Let's try to get this foot right underneath the center of him. As for this leg, let's go ahead and just chop it off. The arm going down. Just to fancy this up a bit, let's duplicate this sword. Oh, didn't get it. There we go. Duplicate the blade now. And let's just do something like that. As for the head, just rotate it. And let's just copy this back shape right here, so just duplicate it, and let's put that right back here. So that's that other leg coming forward now. And let's just thumb through this. Okay, that's good. You know, he's gonna actually kind of look like he's floating a little bit because of that, where the shadow meets the leg there. Oof. Let's see. Oh, let's fix it a little bit on this frame. Let's just pull this down some. That'll help. And then let's get to our fourth frame in the sequence. Just duplicate the body as usual. And for this, what shall we do? Let's just cut right across there. We'll just extend out this back part like so. So now that leg that's closest to us is moving backward. Let's keep these arms moving down and these shoulders moving up. And hey, look at that. That almost looks like the back knee back there. So let's go and just make that a tad bit, well, let's see. I was about to say wider, but maybe just slightly like that. Let's move this little guy. Did we move that the last frame? I can't remember. Well, it probably doesn't matter. Alright, so this arm is still cutting downwards. Let's just go and bring that down like so. As for the head, keep that going down. So let's see how this looks. Bump, bump, bump. Alright. Good enough so far, so let's keep it going a little bit more. We're getting close to the edge of that screen. Let's switch this sword back to being the original. So just sword in hand. And let's see, let's rotate it down a bit more. As for the body, duplicate it. And we'll do kind of a dramatic leap here. Let's go ahead and, well, this leg's going to have to be coming forward, so we'll just send that like so. And this part will go, yeah, that should probably work. What was our knee will now be our leg there. Probably we could bring the whole body up just slightly. This leg, do duplicate it though, and let's make it so that this is kind of touching down a bit more, like that. Let's rotate this. And inside this symbol, I don't think we've yet moved the arms down, so let's do that. Thumb through it, bump, bump. Let's do this. Let's have him race across a little bit faster. So I'm going to nudge each one of these forward just a slight amount. On this frame, I'm going to take these legs down just a little. They were just looking a little bit like the, too much like the frame before it, I thought. Okay, now hit F6 over here. And at this point, let's go and just lift his whole body up like this. Maybe for the shadow, let's squeeze it down and in some. Duplicate this body, and we'll have him just kind of launching off the ground here. And in doing so, he will, of course, really be cutting down now with his blade. So we get something like that. There we go. And this leg, let's see. Let me just step through the sequence again here. There probably should be a frame between these two, but that's alright. Alright, so this back leg, let's go and make it into kind of a knee again. Let's just start cutting it apart. There we go. Let's duplicate some of these, just to show that we're kind of increasing the motion a bit. So we'll kind of pop forward like that. Hit F6 again. And this time we're not going to move him forward that much. Alright, so just kind of maybe like a couple times like that. And we'll send him going more upwards now. Okay. And let's even rotate him. Even though we're going to rotate that sword, it's still going down. But once what we'll do is have him just kind of pop up like that. Okay. Let's also make the shadow just a bit smaller. And then probably this leg will come out over here. This leg will go out, so we'll be doing like a split. And then we can just get the arms going straight down the middle of them so we can really bring that sword down. And you know what, let's go ahead and let's step back a little bit and steal one of our heads that we previously had. Let me check on one other thing real quick. Okay. Well, we're not too drastically off from the original pose. Yeah, in case I wasn't clear though, I did just copy this head right over here. Okay, I think I did at least. Let's see. Okay, just seeing. So this one there, and now let's go back and paste it in. So we'll have him start to turn his head more toward us. Let's keep his bandanas up that way though. Okay, that should work. Duplicate the body. And you know what, let me start to send his belt down this way. Just give us a little reference point for that. Okay, so with that duplicated, double click inside there. Did I duplicate it? There we go. And this leg, let's just move. Oh, this is a tough one because I said too we were going to move it out. So let's see. Well, move it like that for right now, and then what we'll do, because I still want to keep some kind of energy going straight upwards with that movement, and then we'll start to get it going out that way. And maybe this leg can just be the first one to kind of go out that direction. In fact, let's go ahead and do that now. So we'll just duplicate that and have this start to get out that way. Okay, but back within the main body, let's keep sending this arm down. Let's just cut a very thin path right through the middle here. Okay. So you might even have to make a new vector point right there and then just cut right in. Yeah, something like that. Okay, and let's move this shoulder like that, and the hand and the blade downward. I'm going to change the pivot point, just select them both at once. Okay, I think that looks about right. Let's just step through it a little bit. Okay, yeah, that works out real well. Hit F6, and let's send them back a little bit, and upwards. Okay. Duplicate the body. Duplicate this leg back there, and let's send that further out this way. I'm going to put a new vector point right there. New one right there. And for this, let's just put that back that way. Make that go over there. I'm going to curve it just slightly and send this whole shape just a little further that direction, and that'll give us a chance to keep this arm going downward. Okay, let's rotate this like so. One quick thing I want to take a look at is just the pacing of this sword. Just the sorry, the difference between each frame. I feel like there's kind of not much of a movement between these two. Let's just move this one down a little bit. I don't want to seem like there's a break in the middle there. Okay, let's hit F6 and move them back slightly even more. Let's send them up a bit. Okay, duplicate the body. And duplicate this leg. Something we forgot to do last time was move the head, but we'll just move it slightly now. And let's move these arms and legs down. I mean the sword and the hands. Oh, that looks pretty cool. Okay. At this point, send this leg down or back this way, arcing this way, and let's also do that over there. In fact, let's make it a little bit more of a stronger curve. Let's see how this looks. Ooh, that looks cool. Okay, let's do the same thing with this other leg. I already duplicated this. Be sure you've done the same thing. And so. That'll be kind of weird. We'll make one go up and one go down. That's a nice dynamic pose, though. So I think let's do this. Let's try to get away with holding this for a few frames. And all we'll do is just kind of send them back and send them down slightly. And I guess the only things we'll really be moving at all, I guess, will be just this sword and his little bandana tassels, maybe the head a bit. Let me see how this looks. Okay, yeah, let's do that. We won't be able to get away with doing that for long because eventually he's going to kind of fall onto his own sword. I don't want that happening. Although you could be, you know, actually you could squash it down some. Realistically, as he tucks it under his body, you would start to see less of it in perspective. Okay. Let me scrub through this here. And let's rotate him just a little bit. I'm going to rotate this frame before it too. There we go. One little thing there is kind of a noticeable gap through there. Let's just make sure that doesn't take place. Just fill that in. And of course, too, you could just cut a stroke through there, but it's up to you. Oh, and you know what? One thing on this body, let's bring the leg up a little bit. I'm noticing that the belt and that and his waist are kind of getting misaligned. What we could do is just start to move it down slightly through these few frames. Okay. Hit F6 again, and let's send him a little further back. This time we'll drop him down and bring the sword forward, like so. Let's go ahead and change the eyes. Let's get back to our original eyes. Just was that our original or our second? Yeah, let's get to these ones that are look something like that. And let's duplicate the body. Let's duplicate this leg. Let's send the belt down a little bit. And over here, what we'll do is nothing. Let's actually, I take that all back. Let's just duplicate them again here. I mean, keyframe them one more time again, and then send them a little further back, send them further down, and then duplicate all these one more time. So this next pose will be kind of just getting him right close to landing. So he's getting his feet ready to come down. All right, so let's do this. Let's actually work on getting his body back together with his back leg. So what I'm going to do is copy this off and then paste it in here. Get it to be about the right size again. And let's also start to move this arm upwards and his shoulder back. And just break this apart at any time. Let's go ahead and just throw that right over there. Okay, take that out. We do have that back arm back there, so let's get that back in place. Let's start to rotate his head this way again. And, oops, let's get the sword over here. Let's rotate it. We are kind of not seeing that arm, which is okay, but let me just grab it and rotate it anyway. Okay, the belt, let's swap this out for one of our belts that's a little curvier, probably just our original belt. We'll do fine. It's a good indication too of his original waist size. It was like this. And let's keep this swinging forward. We'll stretch that far, and then what I'm going to do is get back in here and try to squeeze him in a little bit. Make him lose some weight. And also, I didn't do much for these legs actually starting to land. All of these are really nice poses so far, though. That's good. Okay, let's see. This leg. There we go. Let's hit F6 and move him back just a couple pixels. Let's leave the shadow alone. Let's go and now bring him down. Duplicate the body, and let's send corner of this leg down that way. So this will be the leg that really makes impact first. Maybe we can delay impact on that one. Let's take his body and start to arc it slightly like this. Okay, because we're going to bring those arms up even further. And for this leg, let's just bring this down like so. Take that like that. Let me zoom in a bit so I get just a little bit more control than I'm getting now. And again, let's try to get his waist a little thinner. I'm going to create an extra vector point right here so I can just curve that in. Okay, I can definitely tell he's getting a lot taller. Let me look back real quick here. Well, what can you do? Okay, this head, let's rotate it like so. Start to send this tassel back downwards. This arm, let's duplicate it as well. And what shall we do here? Well, let's just put it back this way. You know what? I think I still have both hands in that one. He's no longer going to be holding on with both hands here, if you haven't already figured that out. This arm, let's just, let's see. We'll just do something like that for now. I do need one of these fists though, so let's just grab that one. Just to give a little indication he hasn't totally lost his hand. Let me try one thing. Okay, that's fine. So we'll kind of show these let go of it. But let's go and grab one of the hands out of the library that has the open fingers. And there's not many of them. It's this hand. Hand underscore. Okay. Actually, let me just step back one frame and look at this. Let's send this tassel back that way. Hit F6. Let's start to duplicate everything. Duplicate and duplicate. Let's send the head backwards a little bit, and we'll kind of use that as a way of figuring out where we're going to send this shoulder, because I don't want to cover up the head, that's for sure. So let's just go ahead and send that back that way. And we'll get this arm up there, so he's kind of raising his sword again. Maybe getting ready for another strike, depending on how much time we have left in this lesson. And as for this leg, let's see. Oh, that's a great pose, though. Let me swap out this belt for probably this belt 3 here. I just want to angle it a little bit sharper. Let me actually step back. There we go. For this leg, let's just send it down a bit. And bring that up. This whole arm looks a little bit long. Let me just send that way. And 2, we can get away with some of that just because, you know, we'll blame it on the robes. This shoulder's a little bit too beefy too. Take that down. Let me adjust the drop shadow of this bandana. Okay. For this arm, let's go ahead and bring it down this way. What we'll do is kind of make this hand go a little loose. So we'll just drop it down like that. And let's double click inside of here. There we go. Oh, a little too loose. Okay, this will be going downwards. Let's hit F6, duplicate this, and let's rotate the head a little bit, send it that way, get that bandana coming down. This one, let's start to go back down. His whole body's losing a little bit of energy, so the things are just kind of falling back into place. As for this, let's move this back over that way. Gonna curve that out a bit. As for these legs, let's see. I'm gonna bring this down a little and start to make his whole body kind of sag down a bit. The belt, let's go back and get our original belt. Squeeze it together a little bit. Okay, so you see the difference there. Let's hit F6 one more time. Kind of finish up this little sequence. What was I doing with that hand? Let's see, that was going down. Let's make it keep going down. So actually I'm going to step back a frame here, and there we go. And then on this frame, what we'll do is just have it even further down that way. Okay, be sure this body's duplicated, and just kind of get that right next to his head. Get this shoulder down even further. Just want to look at, see where the head should be. So we should probably go down a little bit with it and off to here. And for the feet, or the legs, let's see. Well, I need to take this belt down. That's one thing that's messing me up a little bit. And then let's also squeeze in his waist where that belt meets. And then what I'm going to do is double click inside of here and just put a slight either gap or maybe do a stroke right there. Just some indication that which leg is in front of the other one. Let's see, there we go. For this leg here, let's try this. Let me put a vector point here and then one right here. So it almost just looks like this is just a little bit of extra robe that's just falling down, or maybe he's got his foot kind of bent forward. Let's hit F6 and try maybe just taking the whole body here, and then just on this frame before the one that we just keyframed, just pop it down a little bit, just scale it down there, so then it has something to kind of come back up to. And then on that frame, what we'll do is also just send his sword a little further back. Maybe now we can make this hand rotate upward a little bit, and then just kind of move these belt ties even further. Let's keyframe one more. I just want a little motion back this direction, because he's sending all that energy backwards, and then from the stop it's going to eventually have to come back slightly like that. Okay, and then we can just kind of mess around with these two. Okay, save that up and test it out on your own, see how yours is looking. Of course, always check out mine as well. Alright, well, for time, I don't think we can do too much more, too many other sequences of stuff. It's just, how many hours do you want to listen to me thumbing through animations? But let's do this. Let's talk about the little problem we backed ourselves into here. Is, look, this is where we started. It's a little mini ninja compared to this guy right here. So what we should do is go back and do our best to fix that. It's not actually a hard problem. And you'll see what we'll do to fix that shortly. Let's just let's do this. Let's take him off of that final frame, and we'll go back over to here. All right, where he is, little short stuff again. And actually, before I do that, let me just go and create one more folder up this way. We'll just call this Ninja Movies. Close. And I'll just drag these layers inside of that, so I can just kind of collapse them, and then we can focus in on this little problem. And you know, it's not a big one because we didn't really commit to any arm size in the beginning. Well, we did right here, but actually that's kind of the right size. It's just these beginning legs, and you'll see how easy this is, because look, we're going to double click inside of here, and all we're going to do is put a little point right there. All right, we're going to drag that out, okay? And we can just kind of drag this out like so. All right, so automatically, now he's kind of more in a kneeling pose, okay? And we can get away with doing the same thing right here. So I'm just going to bring this down some, okay? It'll still seem like he's kind of stepping backward a bit, okay? You know, let's make it more like that. But so he'll be kind of in like a crouching pose, you know. And maybe we could even go and, let's see, kind of angle this like so. All right, now on to our next little frame. Let's move this out again. Move that in. Okay. Let's just bring that down a little bit. All right, on to the third little problem frame. Okay, move this one out a bit too far. And now for this, let's just bring it up like that. Okay. On all these ones, we'll just kind of widen him out a bit. All right. Because if you remember, way back when, eventually his knees end up over there. So we'll just kind of end up shifting weight from the outside. Let's adjust this first leg a little bit. Let's take a look. Let's copy this and travel back over to where we were just working. And let's see. Paste it back over there. You know, it's not perfect, but it's at least a little bit more believable. I mean, these legs aren't that different right there. And of course, with a little messing around with it, there's a lot more we could do. But again, the arms behind them, it's a little ambiguous as to how long those are. And we're not trying to make a perfect loop anyway. And we could kind of reason it out that, well, in the beginning he starts maybe a little further back. You could do something like even scale down the head in all of these. But hey, I think it's okay. One thing I would suggest doing is export it out to QuickTime and see if everything is looking alright, if it plays back nicely. Hopefully it will. Boy, I so just want to do one pose where he just flings this sword right at the camera. But we are running short on time. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pause the video for a second. I'm going to export it out to QuickTime on my own to see if there's any issues with that. Again, though, in future versions, hopefully we won't even have to think about that. You guys can use all sorts of looping movie clips. And if it was a web-exclusive cartoon anyway, I'd go with that route. But let's see. I'll see you back here in 2 seconds. Okay, isn't this weird? QuickTime buttons. And then below that, probably more QuickTime buttons. But these are mine. You don't get to play with these. What I'm doing is just kind of scrubbing through this slowly. I can kind of control the pace a little better here. And it looks like everything did export out nicely. Kind of comes up, falls down. I think this came out all right. So, I guess my suggestion to you guys would be to keep it going. See how much further you can take this. It's a good setup, and yeah, keep it rolling. All right. Well, that does it for yet another lesson. Of course, this will be saved in there for you guys. Feel free to tinker around, and that's it. Sayonara.